In this episode right here on the Juice Alert, I'm going to break down and preview Super Bowl 56 between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Los Angeles Rams. Now, at the time of me making this episode, the Los Angeles Rams are 4.5-point favorites to win the Super Bowl over the Cincinnati Bengals. The Los Angeles Rams, obviously adding Matthew Stafford in the offseason. They've made a lot of big trades over the past couple of years, trading for Von Miller, trading for Jalen Ramsey, pretty much just saying screw draft picks and hey, we're all in. And obviously trading away Jared Goff in exchange for Matthew Stafford. A lot of people thought that was a questionable move because Jared Goff had gotten them to a Super Bowl. Personally, I agreed with the move. It's one of those things where it was a risk, but I understood the move. I always thought that Matthew Stafford was an underrated quarterback, and I think he's proved his worth throughout these playoffs. Now, there's another level that Stafford will need to get to as far as, proving that he's the ultimate winner by winning the Super Bowl. But regardless, the Rams, they have a star-studded team with a great coaching staff led by Sean McVay. I didn't expect the Rams to be here in the Super Bowl. I really did not. I felt that Stafford could win a Super Bowl with the Rams, and I actually claimed that he will eventually win a Super Bowl with the Rams. I just felt that in year number one of him learning a whole new system, joining a new team, it would take some time for him to learn how to win in the playoffs because he had never won a playoff game before he got to the Los Angeles Rams. And we've seen guys like, Matt Ryan and Aaron Rodgers in the past when they've, been in new systems, new offenses. Year number 2 and year number 3 is where you saw Matt Ryan win a league MVP, where you saw Aaron Rodgers win back-to-back league MVPs playing under Matt LaFleur. So I just was one of those people that was like, let's pump the brakes. Let's not, act like the Rams are automatic Super Bowl threats and things like that just because they've added a bunch of pieces. It takes time, but they're here along with the Cincinnati Bengals. And man, I got to tell you, I'm so happy for the city of Cincinnati and their fan base. I am from Ohio. I was born in Dayton, Ohio. I currently reside in Ohio. I am so happy for Joe Burrow, for Jamar Chase, for that organization, for the people that have helped build up this team. Listen, it was kind of the same thing with the Bengals. I did not expect them to be here this year. I felt that they would be an improved team this year, but I did not expect them to win a tough division over Pittsburgh, over Baltimore, and over Cleveland. In fact, my Super Bowl pick to begin the year was Packers over Cleveland Browns. And obviously, I was dead wrong about that. The Packers, it looked like I was going to be correct on them. I had them winning the Super Bowl, but Aaron Rodgers and the team obviously disappointed. We'll see what Aaron Rodgers' future is going forward and whatnot. And by the way, guys, I don't have any notes in front of me or anything like that. I'm kind of just rambling a little bit. I know you guys, came to this video for a Super Bowl prediction, and I'm going to get to that very shortly, but it's just one of those things where I kind of want to ramble on and talk about these teams and things like that. That's just how I am, but either way, the Bengals, I thought that they were still a rebuilding team, and boy, is that rebuild sped up. Joe Burrow has established himself to me as an elite quarterback heading into this game. I think that he's in the conversation with Patrick Mahomes, with Aaron Rodgers, with the Josh Allens of the world, with the Russell Wilsons of the world as an elite quarterback because he does elite quarterback things. The accuracy, the mobility is really, really good. The processing, the reading defenses, the ability to elevate a team. Let's be real, people. This Cincinnati Bengals offensive line is average at best. At best. And Joe Burrow makes them look good, and he's overcome this bad offensive line throughout the entire season. He's been throwing the ball down the field, and this is really Joe Burrow's first full season as a starter. That's the crazy thing about it, guys. Joe Burrow got hurt last year, tore his ACL, and the Bengals made a huge risk by not really drafting a whole lot of offensive linemen, especially in the first round. They took Jamar Chase, and I was actually not against the move. I actually liked the Jamar Chase draft pick just because I said, he and Joe Burrow have that chemistry. And it's one of those things where I think Jamar Chase is too good to pass up on. I don't care about Penei Sewell. You need to draft Jamar Chase. And Jamar Chase has rewarded the Cincinnati Bengals. But also, I think you have to give Zach Taylor a lot of credit, for helping the Cincinnati Bengals team get over the hump. A lot of people criticize Zach Taylor. To start, throughout his tenure with the Cincinnati Bengals heading up to this game. A lot of people wonder, would he be the coach past the 2022 season, the 2021 season? Was he going to be the first head coach fired? Zach Taylor has proved his worth, and I got to give the Cincinnati Bengals a lot of credit for sticking with Zach Taylor. I think that sometimes bad organizations fall into the decision of getting rid of head coaches way too fast because it's one of those things where Cincinnati really wasn't going anywhere. At least we thought they weren't going anywhere. Initially, You don't want to have Joe Burrow on a second head coach right out the gate coming off an injury. You need to establish, a culture and rhythm within that organization of familiarity. And I think that, listen, the players have said nothing but good things about Zach Taylor throughout the time in which he's been the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals. It's just one of those things where he didn't always have the talent necessary to show that he can be a winning coach in the National Football League. Now, again, Zach Taylor still has a lot to prove, because is he going to be maybe the next Andy Reid, or is he going to be the next Doug Peterson? And Doug Peterson, we'll see what he does in Jacksonville. But the point is, Doug Peterson was the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, and he won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles as a starting quarterback, won the Philadelphia Eagles their first ever Super Bowl. And a lot of people, thought that Doug Peterson was this next great head coach. At least I thought he was. And he flames out in Philadelphia. Now, we can argue whether or not he should have been fired. I personally don't think he should have been fired from Philadelphia. But the point is, we've seen coaches like Mike McCarthy and Gary Kubiak win Super Bowls, and from that point, winning the Super Bowl, they regress as head coaches. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Zach Taylor adapts year to year and how he will continue to grow as a head coach with this young core in Cincinnati. And by the way, the Cincinnati Bengals are set up for the future because they have a ton of cap space next year. So it's one of those things where, look, the Bengals, beating the Tennessee Titans on the road was really impressive. Joe Burrow got sacked 9 times in that game. The defense really helped him out. Joe Burrow made plays. And then coming back from 18 points down to the Kansas City Chiefs, man, I got to tell you, Kansas City is the team that is probably going to be there for the next at least 5 to 7 years, with Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, really good team. They've been to a Super Bowl, and they've won a Super Bowl. A lot of people thought the Chiefs would be the next dynasty. And the Bengals beat them not only during the regular season, but also when it mattered most in the playoffs. So if you're Cincinnati, you should feel ecstatic about your team. And I think the Cincinnati Bengals have a chance to be a great team for the next decade with Joe Burrow if he stays healthy, and the Bengals continue to build around him. So when you look at the Rams, it's one of those things where they've gotten here taking risks, and those risks have paid off. Matthew Stafford has paid off. Getting Jalen Ramsey has paid off. The thing about the Rams is they pretty much just shoved away those draft picks and said, hey, let's get star players, because we're at a point where we're going to win 10 to 11 games pretty much every single year because our core of players is very talented. And not to mention Aaron Donald is amazing. I think he has a chance to go down as I won't say he has a chance to go down as the greatest defensive player that's ever lived, but he will at least be in that conversation when it's all said and done, whether you guys like it or not. He's amazing. But when it comes to the Rams, man, it's just one of those things where they've traded all their assets and they've gone all in to win right now. And that's what you have to do in a tough division, because the 49ers, the Cardinals, the Seahawks, over the past, 10 years, those have been some real football teams, and they're going to continue to be real football teams. So congratulations to the Rams, but I did not expect the Cincinnati Bengals to be here. It's been a great turnaround for that team. It really has. I'm ecstatic for them, and this potentially could be the greatest turnaround of an NFL franchise in history if Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals are able to win a Super Bowl, because they are way ahead of schedule. So these are how these two teams have gotten here. The Rams have gotten here by drafting well and going out and getting free agents and trading for players. And same thing with the Bengals. They built their team in kind of an unconventional way where they've kind of ignored the offensive line and have kind of just put Band-Aids around the offensive line. But one thing Cincinnati has done is they have put legitimate weapons around Joe Burrow, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. I mean, that's one of the best wide receiver cores in the entire NFL. And Jamar Chase has a chance to become one of the best, if not the best wide receiver in the NFL in a couple of years. He's that good, people. Okay? And it's one of those things where you look at teams like the Colts and the Patriots, teams that really don't have any weaknesses on their roster. Okay? Yes, they don't have any weaknesses, but are they special enough to get over the hump? Meanwhile, you look at Cincinnati, not a great offensive line. There's some areas on the defense I think need some work, but they're so elite at wide receiver, and they have a great quarterback to the point where they can overcome those things. If you have an elite unit and you're super special at something, if you specialize in something in the NFL, you can overcome deficiencies. And it's one of those things where I look at, even in the NBA, the Phoenix Suns, to me, were the more complete roster than maybe the Milwaukee Bucks. But it's one of those things where when you force the Phoenix Suns to be special, outside of Devin Booker, they didn't have enough special firepower to get over Giannis Antetokounmpo in the Milwaukee Bucks. And it's one of those things where, yeah, the Bengals maybe don't have the best offensive line, but they can overcome those things because they have explosive weapons on the outside at wide receiver, and they have a court. And by the way, the running back Joe Mixon is really good too, along with Samaje Perine. But Joe Burrow also is showing that, hey, I'm worth the number one overall pick. That's what number one overall pick looks like, people. And Joe Burrow is bad news for quarterbacks like Daniel Jones, because it's one of those things where if you're a top 10 pick, if you look at Joe Burrow and you ask yourself, why are other quarterbacks not performing at this level that Joe Burrow is performing at? That's a real question you have to ask. But I gotta say, man, I'm so happy for the Bengals. They've had a complete turnaround, and I'm so happy that I get to cover it, because Rams versus Bengals in the Super Bowl, I could not think of a more likable Super Bowl matchup in recent memory. And honestly, I couldn't think of a more difficult Super Bowl for me to predict. This is the hardest Super Bowl for me to predict since probably the Seahawks and the Patriots, where the Seahawks, they were going to be potentially this next dynasty, a lot of people thought, but I actually picked the Patriots that year to knock them off, and the Patriots ended up knocking them off. It was a little bit of luck with Malcolm Butler getting the interception and whatnot in the end zone, but in the end, the Patriots got it done, and then the Seahawks, they fell. And look, I'm going to get to my prediction very, very shortly. I told you guys that roughly about 10 minutes ago, and I've been rambling here. And again, like I said, I just came on here to talk, and I don't really have any notes in front of me. Usually I have a big little notebook in front of me with a bunch of notes, and I'm just doing things a little bit unconventional right here because, well, I'm kind of pressed with time. I'm still figuring things out with my life, and there's a lot of things I want to talk about on the show, but the point is I wanted to get this content out to you guys. But this is really, really how these teams have gotten here. The Rams, this is how they've gotten here. Aggressive moves, great coaching staff, and a quarterback upgrade. And the Bengals, not only a big upgrade at quarterback from a couple of years ago compared to Andy Dalton and the Carson Palmers of the world. By the way, that also leads to the question. I want you guys to comment in the comment section here if you're watching on YouTube or a platform where you can comment on my show, or if you hit me up on social media. Like I said, my social media is in the description of this episode. Does Joe Burrow kind of make us look at Carson Palmer a different way? Because all we heard about was, oh, the Cincinnati Bengals were the problem. It wasn't Carson Palmer's fault. It was the Cincinnati Bengals organization that ruined Carson Palmer. Or maybe was it a little bit of, maybe it was that, or maybe it was Carson Palmer maybe needed to improve. And maybe it was Carson Palmer, for whatever reason, just couldn't seem to stay healthy, couldn't get it done when it mattered most, even though he had guys like Chad Ochocinco beside him at wide receiver. But spoiler alert, no one really talks about that. But that's one thing I want to think about. But the Bengals, they've drafted well. They've signed free agents. That's one thing that Cincinnati had not done in the past, is they really didn't go out and sign free agents, and they've been aggressive, and they've done things the more unconventional way. And they're the Cinderella story, and I'm so happy for Cincinnati, and that is how we got to Super Bowl 56. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juice Alert Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. And I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I currently am a freshman there right now. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juice Alert Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God bless day, and I'm out.